Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Bitcoin trading call, Ecoin news. This is 11/9. Today is November 9th. We are have a lot of news in the marketplace. I want to share some of that stuff with you. First thing I'm going to talk about is Bitfinex kills Americans. There's a news publication on the largest trade exchange company in the world called Bitfinex. They announced it over probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago that they were going to stop doing business with the American marketplace because American legislation is so painful and so hard to deal with that they decided it's just not worth the cost. The American system is probably one of the least free systems on the marketplace when it comes to finances. They are on basically lockdown. There's so many rules and regulations to use credit cards, to use money. You've probably noticed that if you go to your bank and you try to withdraw any substantial amount of money, they want to know what it's used for. They want to fill out paperwork. There's just so much legislation to control the American dollar. So they've just decided, you know what, we're just going to not do business with Americans. And that's a sad state of affairs. And I think that's one of the reasons that Bitcoin is here to stay, is because people are tired of not being able to use their money the way they want to, the way that they see fit. So it's actually a testament to one of the things that we see. For example, gambling. I don't like to gamble. I like to trade safe when I trade. But if a person wants to take their money and go to a slot machine and throw it in there, then that's their money. They should be able to do that. What's hypocritical about the government is they go ahead and say, you can't gamble. They'll actually throw you in jail for starting your own casino. But at the same time, they have one of the worst casinos on the world, which is called a lottery. Most states allow a lottery, and as long as they benefit from their laws, then they're okay with it. And that's just hypocrisy in the marketplace. And it's about time that we have a system that says, you know what, we want to use our money the way we want to use our money, and not have some big government or agency tell us what to do with it. So that's one of the great benefits of the marketplace. We're not going to talk about what happened with China. China went ahead and banned their people from using Bitcoin, but it didn't stop them. They're continuing to use it anyway. We won't talk about much of what's going on in the rest of the world. I want to talk about simple, basic stuff that'll help you guys make money with this new adventure. So the next thing I want to talk about is eating without a fork. Bitcoin was supposed to fork this week. It was supposed to happen a week from today, that there was going to be a new fork. In other words, there were going to be two coins marketed, and the second coin was going to be worth about $1,000 or $1,200. So everybody who had one Bitcoin would end up with one Bitcoin and one B2X coin, and you'd automatically just get free money. But they decided not to do the fork, which I believe is a very good thing. I think in the long term, even though you're not making your extra $1,000 next week for your coins, you are in the long term making Bitcoin a stronger organization by not forking it with this organization. Yesterday's call, we talked a little bit more about that. If you want to know about the fork and why I think it's stronger for the marketplace and what the strategies are, if you are actually looking forward to the fork, go ahead and watch yesterday's. We talked about that a lot. We want to talk about why traditional markets are resisting Bitcoin, and this is going to be a very brief training. We can get into a lot of stuff on this subject, but I'm going to go ahead and just give you a super short overview of why traditional markets are resisting Bitcoin. Now, we saw just a couple months ago, one of the big wigs, one of the VPs of the big trade organization, the Chase Bank crowd, went ahead and came out against Bitcoin. Bitcoin fell 1,500 points, or $1,500 per coin. Their organization was actually the number one purchaser of Bitcoins the day after it fell. So they're actually, in one hand, they're saying don't use it. On the other hand, they're going ahead and using it. Some of the biggest trade organizations on the planet are now starting to plan on using it, even though they are currently resisting it. I think the machine is so big, and the movement is so worldwide, that they're basically having a hard time with it. And let me show you a little bit of one of the potential reasons that they're afraid of it. Here's a quick little graphic for you. Here's the current value of silver. You can see that little tiny gray dot. And then you can see on this page, you can see the total value of all cryptocurrencies. So this big square is what we're going to be calling the one square, which is worth about $17 billion. So you can see that one square is all of Bitcoin together, And then you can see that all the cryptocurrencies together, this is the total value. And what's really weird about that is how concerned the marketplace, the government, the SEC, all these organizations are concerned about that tiny little dot, that little value right here called cryptocurrency. They're concerned about that. And let me show you why. Here's all the big companies, some of the biggest companies in the United States. You can see that Apple is basically 8 times the value of all Bitcoin together. And then when we go down here, the 50 richest people in the world is that number right there. And then the California GDP, the entire worth of California is right there. You can see that that's pretty sizable. The federal government, federal balance sheet, $3.5 trillion is right here. The currency of all the world, the currency of all the gold, the currency of all stock markets. And this is where it starts to be concerning. As you start seeing that the global money supply, there's a portion of all the money of the world from this first box here is all of the printed money of the world, all the coins, all the dollars, all the actual cash on the planet. And then here's what we call broad money. This is actually their version of Bitcoin, their version of cryptocurrency, where it's just commodities. Now we get down to global debt. You can see that the global debt is far greater than all the money in the world and greater than the value of all the real estate. And then this is the piece of the puzzle that when we stop using their dollars, when you stop using dollars or when you leave the traditional banking system, just like what we saw when we had the bubble burst in the internet market, and then we saw the bubble burst in the real estate market, what happens is these things called derivatives, or they're actually value that's created out of thin air. This is money that's not money. This is money that is a contract between two parties. And the derivative is the value of the performance of the underlying asset or index. So what they're saying is all these things, they're going to take your mortgage payment that's worth $100,000 and they're going to sell it 5, 6, 7, 8 times, 10 times. It's going to actually become a derivative. It actually becomes something that's on a book or a bank sheet. It's worth $10 million. And so when we have derivatives, and you can see, I'm going to start scrolling down. This is how much the derivatives on the planet are. And we continue to scroll down. Now we can see that it's already 10, 15, 20 times the value of any real money. This is basically monopoly money. This is basically money that the governments and the banks have made up to put on their balance sheet to make themselves rich. And then there's the first half, $5.44 trillion. And we're going to continue to go. It's estimated that there's $1.2 quadrillion in derivatives. And what happens when something, for example, like the real estate market starts to fold is they start to cash in. Some people start to cash in on these derivatives or on these stories that they've told on contract. And you can see it says keep scrolling. It continues to go on and on and on. The value of money that they've just pretended, that they've just made up. And so here's one of those little blocks down here at the bottom is the value of Bitcoin. And here's the volume of all the fake money that they've made up. And the reason that some of the traditional marketplaces are concerned is if you leave their system and this thing starts to fold in on itself, the money becomes evident that it's criminal. You know, it's one of the things that we should have seen a lot more people go to jail during the big bubble burst with the real estate market. But they're very well connected, have lots of money. So nobody goes to jail as long as you're part of as long as you're part of the right crowd. So that's one of the stories, one of the reasons that the big guys, the traditional marketplaces are resisting Bitcoin is that tiny little Bitcoin has the potential to disrupt their play, their game. And so you're going to start seeing more and more of them participate in it. I want to talk to you a little bit about the new gold rush. The new gold rush is basically, there's been a few times in our lifetime in the 19th, 20th century that we've actually seen that people start to flood toward, like California starts to find gold and everybody starts to make money. Now, if you're really smart, you'll pay attention as to what's happening right now. First thing I want to say is that all gold rushes come to an end. That something replaces it. But if you're smart, then you'll know through history what it takes to become one of those people that participates long-term on the gold rush. So Bitcoin as a company or as a name, as a brand, may not be the thing that lasts forever. And in many cases, it won't be. There's going to be some form of cryptocurrency, and it's the people who provide services for cryptocurrency that will probably be the companies that grow, that are the next monster companies. Like Levi Jeans was actually one of the companies that helped provide clothing, and a couple other clothing companies and a couple hardware companies are still some of the strongest companies on the planet, because they provided services to the people who were in the gold mines. All those gold miners and all the gold mines from the gold rush are dead, and it's all the companies that provided services and resources to those gold miners continue to live on. So pay attention to the marketplace, pay attention to where it's going, stay focused on news channels like mine and other people who are actually paying attention to the big picture. And it's not just about the short-term trading, but get involved, learn as much as you possibly can, and we will help you see the advantages and disadvantages of participating in different programs. Here's why Bitcoin, this is the next part of the news. Why is Bitcoin trading 100% safe? And then I say, okay, 99% safe. There is no 100% sure thing on the planet. There is no absolute guarantees that if you put so much money in Bitcoin, even though we've seen now for over a year that if you buy Bitcoin and do nothing but buy it and hold it, that you will actually see a 100% increase in your money every 90 days, that it's actually growing consistently. It doubles in size every 90 days. That doesn't mean that it will continue, and it also doesn't mean that Bitcoin won't go away and be replaced by some other cryptocurrency. But because we know the trends, and because we're willing to see when it becomes a bubble, when it becomes competitive with other marketplaces, we are smart enough to realize that nothing lasts forever. But because we're in its infancy, this is why Bitcoin trading is 100% safe. Right now, we've seen a tremendous amount of growth, and some people say, oh, it's a bubble, and we've reached our top, and it's never going to hit $10,000. Well, Bill Gates says it's going to reach $1 million a coin, and I think he knows a little bit about finance. You know, he's known as the richest man on the planet. I think the reason that he's right is because right now, if you talk to most people about Bitcoin, they don't even know what it is. And even the people who are trading it don't really have a real grasp or an understanding of it. We are on the infancy of adoption. Companies, countries, governments, organizations don't even know what it is or what they're doing with it, and it's already growing at exponential rates. There's only so many Bitcoins out there. There's only going to be 21 million total ever produced, and as more and more people start using it, you're going to start seeing some growth. Now, there's a couple announcements that are coming up by the end of the year that should see Bitcoin go from $7,000 and $8,000 this month to $10,000, $12,000, $13,000 by early next year. So you're in a really good place. Bitcoin trading is extremely safe. If you guys will pay attention to what we're doing on the personal coaching side, I went ahead and did a trade today that got me a 20% increase on a single in a 2.5 hour trade. You know, it was pretty simple to do, and if you know what the trends are, you know what to do. And it's now coming back to normal after the blow up that happened last week with the whole coin fork scenario. Now that we know that's not happening, things are starting to settle back down. There's starting to be a little bit of consistency already today. I still recommend, today's recommendation is go ahead and buy and hold. Don't do any trading. You know, I can trade because I'm staring at it every day, and I can see and watch certain trends that are going to happen. I would recommend the novice or the beginner to not trade right now. You're better off to just take your money, buy. It's actually right now is a really good time to buy. Let me look at the price right now. The price is under $7,200 right now. It took a little bit of a dip. It's going to go back up to $7,800 within the next week. So you got a huge spread, a huge bounce that's going to happen this week. So right now is a really good time to buy. It may, you know, there's still the possibility that it'll drop below $7,000 again, because people don't really know what to do. They're a little bit cautious about the fact that the fork is gone. Don't worry about it. It's all going to come back. It's, you know, all the profits that you made last week and the week before, you're going to see them come back again next week. So that's one of the things that you need to know about this investment strategy. If you're investing by yourself or you're investing as a team, just realize that it's all the dips are temporary, and we love the dips. If it weren't for the dips, we wouldn't be able to take advantage of the buy sell moment. So right now we're in a little bit of a lull. So some of you that bought Bitcoin at $7,400, $7,500, $7,600 last week, you'll look at your balance sheet and you see, hey, I lost money. This thing sucks. I don't want to do this. Don't worry about it. It's coming back. It's absolutely going to come back. I was buying last week when it was at $7,500, $7,600. So I'm 100% confident that it's going to keep going in that direction. Let's see if I missed any other news. The new gold rush, but Bitcoin is safe. Traditional markets. Okay, that's it. I mean, eating without a fork means just continue to do what you were doing before. We're just going to go back to normal. Everything's going to be fine. I will keep you guys informed as to what trade environments. Now that Bitfinex has basically banned Americans from participating, I'm going to be using GDAX just for a little while, but it actually doesn't trade some of the coins that I like to look at. So I'm going to be moving over probably to a company called Kraken and start trading over there. So that's it for the news for today. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen and open it up for you guys. Any of you guys that want to do a little bit of Q&A, I'm going to go ahead and stop the record.